And how would you feel about the change in government? How are you finding the new Prime Minister?
Well, first of all, I find him very handsome.
He'll be very happy to hear that, I'm sure. Good morning. I'm sat with a founder and CEO of Wildlife Alliance, Ms. Suwanna Gauntlett. How are you today?
Oh, well, I'm delighted to be with you and in this beautiful location.
I'm liking your Christmas tree. One of those presents under there's for you. You need to go and find it later.
Oh, that's right.
So here in Cambodia, and you've been here for
24 years.
24 years. You came when you were 18.
Yes, of course.
So how was 2024 for yourself and Wildlife Alliance?
For myself, it was a good year, but for Wildlife Alliance, it was not a good year.
How?
Well, we were literally blackmailed by Human Rights Watch in New York, sending letters on their letterhead saying that we are violating human rights. And they called the UN auditors that come to, audit our operations.
I read this in the newspaper, actually.
Yeah, this is a very famous scandal. Yeah. And thankfully now, the suspension of our sales of carbon credit has been lifted. End of September, I think it was.
Oh, congratulations. That's great news.
Thank you.
It must have been a very stressful time.
It was actually terrible. So I managed to have a good time in my private life, but I was anxious all the time. And then there's a horde of journalists who have been attacking us. How do you say this? Thanks to Human Rights Watch. They attracted the attention of the public on us. So the journalists from US, they came one after the other. And last week, France 24 broadcasted our project. And we have all these American young journalists who want to put all the scandals without asking us if it's true. And so that's our year.
How does that work then in relation to it's been lifted and you've been exonerated for all of the negative press? How do you then go about communicating that to all of the people that might have been influenced by the unsubstantiated reports?
Well, I'm hoping that this interview will help. But we've written hundreds and hundreds of pages back to each journalist, Human Rights Watch. We had meetings. We had meetings with the VERA, it's the UN certification body. So we're constantly communicating.
So do you think the journalist has an alternative agenda?
Yes, I do. These journalists are under the influence of an anti-red campaign, and they're...
What does that mean?
Sorry, it's a technical word. RED is reduction of emissions through deforestation and forest degradation. Our projects that are being criticized are in the Cardamoms Mountains on the western side of the country. We have a contract with the government, specifically the Ministry of Environment, to protect this forest. And so it's their forest, but we're the implementers. And the program is called REDD, Southern Cardamoms, and REDD, SAMCOS. So RE, reduction of emissions from deforestation and forest degradation. And then if you're a really good forest manager, you get to sell carbon credits. And these carbon credits are the absorption of CO2 by this forest. And the canopy, that's why it's important to keep the canopy continuous, no fragmentation, that gives it more power. And the polluters in this world who need to offset their carbon emissions, they have come to us to buy our carbon absorption of their pollution. So it's the
I get it. So it's like a giant scales. What they do at one side, they need to balance back out the other side by helping you protect the forest.
Very well said, Paul. Yes.
Okay, interesting. And so it must be how long did it take you to have the embargo lifted then from being blocked to sell those?
A year and a half.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, we were attacked in June 20, if I'm correct, June 2023, and the human rights scandal continued all the way until September 2024.
Wow. So that's great. That must have been such a relief to actually be exonerated and
Yes.
have all these accusations which you proved to be untrue.
We proved to be untrue. And one of the accusations, you're never going to believe this, is that I beat pregnant women.
Do you know, I can see you with that stick now, Suwanna. That's unbelievable.
Can you believe this? Such nonsense. Such nonsense. But the bottom line is, and this journalist, young reporter, a woman from Human Rights Watch, her main attack, because everything else was wrong, was not true, so they finally...
Where's the evidence? How?
I know, because we had to write so much data, hundreds and hundreds of pages. For that case, this is what happened. Here are the legal documents. Here are the photos. This is the village at this UTM. So she kind of lost face, and we put an open letter to the public on our website. She actually led the way of this horde of journalists criticizing us. And even though she lost face on all the allegations, she kept one, which is Wildlife Alliance is stealing the land of the indigenous people so that we can make money on their carbon credits. It's twisted, so twisted. So the journalists picked that up, and they say, well, this is the problem with this red project in the Cardamoms, is that the project has stolen the land from the indigenous people in order to sell these carbon credits.
Well, actually, you're protecting the land for the indigenous people, I would probably say, more to the point.
We are protecting the forest land for the people. So it's the reverse.
Wow. So how are you going to take this forward? What do you have planned for 2025?
Cardamoms forever. It makes me cry when I say this, because when I came, we started the cardamom protection in 2002-ish. Actually 2000 with Bokor for 10 years, then 2001 with Bottom Sakor, and 2002 is the whole cardamoms. So my dream is that this forest will stay standing in perpetuity.
So 25th anniversary 2027. Big things there.
Yes, indeed. Our previous Prime Minister has been very, very helpful, because the business class has tried again and again to take big chunks of the cardamom forest to create industrial development. Even the Australians came.
Really?
At one point, yeah, trying to cut the forest to create a commercial banana plant. They wanted 7,000 hectares.
And how would you feel about the changing government? So, you know, Hun Sen has taken a step back into working more with the CPP and retirement, which I think he deserves. How are you finding the new Prime Minister?
Well, first of all, I find him very handsome.
He'll be very happy to hear that, I'm sure.
And I like his approach. And he doesn't believe, what did you say, face value?
Yeah.
He goes and checks himself, oftentimes anonymously.
Yeah, I've heard that, and I think sometimes working and me speaking to some of the people that I know work alongside him, there's a lot of change that he's trying to implement, and I think sometimes it takes time.
Yes.
So yeah, I think it's all very positive for that. So I hope that's good for Wildlife Alliance and the Cardamom Mountains. We saw him running he was up in Siem Reap running the annual, I think it was the 29th Angkor half marathon, and him and a lot of the ministers were up taking part, which I thought was fantastic. I really feel that he's trying to reach to the people. It's really good.
That's my feeling too, to get close to the people. And he's charismatic, so it's working. His bonding with the community.
And has he been up to the Cardamom yet?
No, that's my next goal, because
Project 25.
Project 25.
There you go.
Take the Prime Minister to the Cardamoms.
Perfect.
Yes. Do you want to tell me about your experience in the Cardamoms?
Do you know, that's a very good question. You're interviewing me, Suwanna, but actually, whenever I have visitors here, and one of the most important parts of where I like to take them is I take them up to my visitors up to the tented camps up in Cardamom, and especially if I've got teenagers with me, to detox them, because I find that even when I'm up there personally, coming away from the Cardamom, it's like someone lifts a weight off my shoulders, because there's no Wi-Fi, there's no phones, there's nothing. And taking the children up there, you'd think I was removing a limb. But when we bring them back and they go back to the UK, their fondest memory and what they talk about to their friends and their family is that 3-day experience. And it's so important.
In the forest.
In the forest. The 3-day experience in the forest. And I have some more visitors coming up in April. And the first thing they said when I was planning their trip, they were, Paul, top of the list, we must go to the Cardamom, because that is all that Rachel talked about when they were there this time last year. So top of the list.
That's wonderful.
And I think it's important for anybody with children. It's a memory. You know, you can go to a beach any day of the week, but actually having something that is a once in a lifetime experience, and without people like yourself, they might not be able to do it for much longer. So it's important. And also the temples, of course, in Siem Reap, but you know, shouldn't just be a one location tourist spot where you just come to Siem Reap. The Cardamom Mountains is equally as important for the heritage of Cambodia, but the world as well, and they should visit it. And so it's great that people have that available.
Thank you, Paul. I'm very encouraged by what you just said. And the previous Prime Minister, in fact, in 2003, told the public and all the tourists, when you go to Cambodia, if you want to see temples, you go to the temples of Angkor, and if you want to see beautiful nature, you go to the Cardamoms.
So what are the exciting plans that Wildlife Alliance have for the next 5 years? Where do you see this if we're now chatting and it's now 2030?
Thank you for this very political question, actually, because the Cardamoms are a huge body of rainforest, one of the only ones remaining in Southeast Asia. We must continue to protect it. And we must, when I say we must, it's also our actions at Wildlife Alliance. We're trying to work with the government to not deforest anymore. No more hydropower dams, for example. There are 5 more are planned. And we have enough electricity from the existing ones. We already have 5 in place, and now 5 more are being planned. So our 5-year plan is to first work closely or more closely with the government to prevent this from happening again and again.
Suwanna, so here's a question for you. What are the benefits of the forest in its current state to Cambodia?
Well, first of all, the first benefit that the Cardamoms offer the Cambodians is water. There is the highest rainfall in the country, 3,800 to 4,200 millimeters. Huge underground water reserves, 22 major waterways. So that's kind of the survival. Since we're in a huge planet warming phase, we need to offset that by cooling the surface of the earth with tropical forests. That's why we, Wildlife Alliance, and the Ministry of Environment have initiated 2 carbon offsetting programs that industrial companies can buy. So they pollute and we absorb their pollution.
And that's fantastic, because I think, there's a lot of goodwill that a lot of these big organizations, they know that they pollute. They want to do something and they want to offset, and you're giving them that solution.
That's
so
right.
It's win-win.
That's right. And I like your approach, which is tourism. Our donors before and now our buyers of carbon, they love to come to the Cardamoms to check what they're buying. And then once they're reassured, they like to stay for tourism. So it's a very beneficial circle for the economy.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So I wish you all the success on that, and like a phoenix from the flames from all the negativity, you've proved them all wrong.
I love it. And
so if there was a message to try and get across to the Prime Minister, what would you say? Has he visited?
No. I need to invite him to visit. He's very focused on livelihoods, and he verbally said he doesn't want any more logging. But that's not what's happening. I would like to update him, show him maps, photos, UTMs, have him fly with me over the Cardamoms by helicopter and visit all of the community projects, which are the best. They're the best in the country.
Yeah.
And I hope he will accept my invitation.
Well, I'm sure this time next year when we're having a similar chat, you can tell me all the positive news when you make this happen. Because if anyone's going to make it happen, it's going to be you. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Paul, for your inspirational questions.
And have a wonderful Christmas and all success for 2025.